Welcome to Table Talk, where there's always room at the table. I am your host, Jonathan Harmon of the J. Harmon Home Team, and we can't wait to talk to these fine guests. Enjoy the show. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Jonathan Harmon of the J. Harmon Home Team, powered by Keller Williams, and we are back for Table Talk. Trent, how the heck are you, man?
I'm super duper. How are you?
You are super duper, and I am. My day is always better when I get to spend a little time with you.
Stop it!
Yeah,
you're gonna make me blush.
Well, that's okay. Nobody can see you. Hey, before we get rolling, because I've got a fantastic guest, Miss Leslie Allen, Managing Director at Randstad, and we're going to talk staffing and employment and a little bit of economy. I was going to say economics, and then I almost said economics. There's a whole story that goes with that. I'll tell you that story later.
Okay.
Anyway, so we'll talk about all of that. But before we dive in, let's hear from Mr. Brian Nail of Premise Mortgage.
Hey, my name is Brian Nail. I'm a mortgage loan officer with Premise Bank Mortgage, and I want to tell you that I absolutely love being a member of the Spread the Positive Network. It's such a great mission, and it helps bring so much positivity to our community. It's a true pleasure to be part of. There are a lot of ways to navigate financing a home, and in markets like this, having the advice of a trusted local professional is key to making sure you get the right advice for your specific circumstances. Whether you're interested in the purchase of a new home, a second home, or have a need for a refinance, I'd love to earn your trust. If I can help you nail your mortgage, call me at 615-243-3976 or visit nailyourmortgage.com, and I'll be happy to talk with you.
Premise Mortgage is a subsidiary of Premise Bank, a member FDIC, equal housing opportunity. As always, all loans are subject to approval. Premise Mortgage, NMLS number 1894879.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brian Nail, for being such a supporter of Spread the Positive. We love that guy. Leslie.
Yes.
How's it going?
Well, I'm super with a dash of duper. I don't know if I'm super duper.
The dash.
Super with a dash duper.
That's right.
I like that. That's good. You work for Randstad, and if you guys aren't familiar with Randstad out there that are listening and watching, it's the largest or second largest in the country right now.
In the country, it's the second largest. It's the largest in the world.
Staffing agency.
Mm-hmm.
So and we're going to get into what all that means, because I have what historically I've thought staffing is,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a whole lot more to it than what my historical picture of that is. But largest in the world, second largest in this country. You guys get a lot of folks to work.
A lot of folks.
And so I was asking Leslie before we got started, what are some what kind of things should we talk about? And I had one idea, and she had another idea, and then we put an idea together. So we have three ideas. It's going to be fantastic. So the first thing I want to ask you, one of the things that my wife and Leslie work together, of course. That's how I said, of course, like you guys would know that. That's how we got Leslie here. And one of the things that Lacey says fairly often is that you guys in your industry frequently know what's going to happen in the bigger economy before a lot of other people. You're kind of a leading indicator, right? Mm-hmm. So when companies kind of see that big R word recession on the horizon, they start to react, and you guys will feel that a lot of times before really anybody even starts to report on it. And I've always thought that was interesting. So what is your take on that?
Yes, I wouldn't say we get a huge head start on that.
Sure.
But what tends to happen is uncertainty causes a tightening of the belt when it comes to labor. And what we'll see is, you have a large automotive employer, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
who might be uncertain.
Just as an example,
we might have a large local automotive employer who maybe there's a part missing, or you come into logistics problems or sourcing a product, and suddenly that causes uncertainty. And then, we don't know how many people we're going to need to keep a line going here or a distribution center going there. And so we're just going to wait. And then that causes a ripple effect. And then you start seeing your openings in the field go from, we have so many openings and we're begging people to go to work, to suddenly that gets tighter and tighter and tighter.
Yeah,
and then
we'll just wait on that one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. And then the reverse happens too. So when we're coming out of a low point in the economy, your industrial leaders start to know first. So demand starts to pick up, and suddenly, where we have tightened the belt here, we're not able to meet the requirements of our end user, and so we need all the people that you can get in the door in the next week.
Right.
And so maybe the economy at large hasn't felt that shift, but in the staffing world, recruiting world, we do.
Mhm.
And we probably
Because
have
you guys
6
are
weeks.
essentially the stopgap, right?
Yes.
I mean, in a situation where maybe immediate post COVID, they have all these openings because people just chose not to come back to work in some cases, right?
That's right.
And so they have all these openings. Well, and rather than hurrying and making a bunch of permanent hires, let's bring in some folks to fill in temporarily,
That's right.
and then maybe this is the part that I didn't think about when I think about staffing: hire some of those guys on,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
Or maybe not, right? Maybe that just buys us time to get the work done at a certain level until we hire the people that we want to.
Exactly right.
Okay. Or if we think we've still got 6 months worth of work to do, but we're starting to lose some people, rather than hire somebody on only to lay them off 3 months down the road, we'll just bring somebody in that's a temporary solution anyway.
Especially in that situation where we just don't know. So we know we have demand up to 6 weeks out, and we're going to have, in order to do that, I mean, simple math. In order to do that, we have to have this many production hours on the floor.
Right.
Well, so I know 6 weeks out, but I can't project any further.
Week
because
7 is a blur.
uncertainty starts here. So it makes sense at that point to bring in temporary labor. What also makes sense, a savvy employer would look at this pool of temporary labor that they brought in and said, okay, this is a working interview. So I am
Right.
now looking at who do I...
There's no risk to this interview.
There's no risk.
Yeah.
There is no risk. And if they attrit out, so if we lose them along the way for whatever reason, then maybe that was meant to be. The ones that are still here, we can afford this many, we're taking on. And your savvy temp employee understands that that's what's happening.
That's right.
So you
This is
kind of
an
have this
audition.
meeting of the minds, and that they're just going to rise to the top, and they're now your next full-time employee.
That's right. Now, the other part, though, is that you guys, and you used a term. Am I even allowed to use that term?
Let's do it.
Back in the day, you heard of headhunters,
That's
right?
right.
And so, company A says, "Man, we really need a new, manager for this particular shift that manages 100 employees." Okay, and rather than taking all the risk of going out, finding it, moving them there, whatever, they can call you guys and say, "Hey, here's what we're looking for. Here's our requirements." And they put a lot of that burden of risk on y'all. There's a fee, but sometimes it's like there's some shared risk there, right?
Right.
Talk to me about that.
So ultimately, the employer at that part, which I think we should bring back headhunter, honestly. It sounds so much cooler than staffing manager. But the employer sends me out as almost a broker, right? And says, okay, this is what I need, and now I need you to find the person that meets the need. And there's a lot of reasons why they do that. One is technology is great until it's not, right? So if you put something on the internet and you post something on the internet, you're just inviting a flood of humanity back, and what's real and what's not real.
Especially if you have a salary posted, right? Oh, I can do that because it's going to pay me whatever.
Forget about it. And there's just, it's a lot. It's once you do that, it's almost, you ever open something, saw how crazy it was, and just immediately shut it back? That's what happens. And usually that's
My
when the
kid's
call
closet.
comes. Yes. Or for me, just intimidating Excel spreadsheets. But, and I say, nope, no thank you. And then they call us and they send us out to find that person. And then what I get to deliver back is, hey, I found 3 people. And here's what I like about candidate 1, candidate 2, candidate 3. Which one do you want to meet with? So now you've sent me out to do that. I'm giving you a summary back. I'm handling the talent and setting up their interviews. I'm doing all the legwork, and I get to tell them no. So you don't have to be the bad guy. I can be the bad guy.
Why would somebody have you do that rather than their HR person if they have an HR department? Or maybe do a lot of companies not have hiring HR anymore?
So that's a very interesting. It's so funny that you say that. So I think that we lump HR and recruiting into the same basket.
Hmm.
They are not in the same basket, and nobody would tell you that faster than an HR person. So I think you think about human resources and you think that recruiting is a natural part of that, but it's really not their job. Their job is to focus on the person that is already working there and to make sure that the company is policy aligned.
Hmm.
And sometimes you can add recruiting, but if you took somebody who is working full time in an HR role and said, tomorrow I need you to have 30 people to come backfill, a second shift line, that might be their last day. that
Well,
would
that's
be
interesting.
so far out.
So I worked in HR for a short period of time. Now, granted, the company that I worked for is now defunct.
Right?
But that was very much.
Probably not your fault.
No, it definitely wasn't. Of course not. But that was very much one of my main tasks was to fill our lines, and we did it through a combination of some staffing and our own efforts to post out there. So that's
And a
interesting.
lot do. So, and especially if the quantity of people that you're bringing in is small, that probably makes sense for you.
Oh no, it was a bunch all the time because we had high turnover.
So then you're shifting, right? So you're shifting their focus from the HR role, the human resource role, as it was intended to be, to a recruiting function. And you can do that short term effectively, but in a high turnover role. So so you think about your industrial centers, your call centers, where you might need 25 to 30 people a month, realistically, to keep that line going.
Guys do a little head hunting, you do a little temporary placement, and I imagine there's probably all along the way some consulting involved in that as well.
All along the way. All along the way. And honestly, that's the job, right? So it's not, so just like with your HR, so you're in that previous example where you're asking someone to shift their focus, for me to expect that a production supervisor is also an expert in hiring and selecting the perfect candidate is an unrealistic expectation.
Hmm.
So if I am not consulting, if I am not providing feedback to that person, then I have selected to not perform my position to its fullest capacity. If I don't tell them, look, you're messing up here. I had a company that I was working with that said, I'll take 5 reach truck operators a day. I'll take them 5 a day. If you can get me 5 a day, I'll take 5 a day. I am desperate. And I need them to work 6 days a week. I need them to work 12 hours a day, which let me come back to that.
That's a lot.
And so I was like, so now you're asking for something extremely specialized in a high quantity, and you're asking them for this much time. Like you're asking for the impossible. So.
Oh, and by the way, I want to pay him $10 an hour.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And so if I don't consult back, if I don't say, hey, here's where I see that we're going to run into some obstacles, then I'm not providing the service that you're paying me for.
Right.
But what gets frustrating is if I had somebody that said, and this happened, hey, I got somebody that can do everything that you want them to do, but they need to do this in 5 days, not 6, because they have a second job. No. Okay, but you were desperate, so let's talk this through. If you're desperate, what you're desperate for is worked hours, and I can provide that for you.
Right. It may not look exactly like it does in your mind.
That's right. Because do you understand that a temp person isn't the same headcount to you as a full-time employee?
Right.
No, that's right. You don't. What you're paying for is worked hours, not a headcount on your floor.
Right. So, and that's interesting. So let's talk about that for a second, because I hear Lisi talk about this a lot, and that is, I think that there is probably some expectations, and I have lots of friends that own small businesses, and I think that it's important to hear some of this from anywhere from a small business all the way to the biggest businesses in our county. There's unrealistic expectations a lot of times about here's the job. Here's what I want to pay for it, but
Mhm.
here's what people want to earn for it. And ultimately, it's an exchange, right? So I have something you want, which is my time. You have something I want, which is your money. So we've got to negotiate some type of a number here. And I mean, the last time that I worked in just warehouse like logistics and that kind of thing, just as labor,
Mhm.
you know, 10.50 an hour was, I mean, that was big money, and it's been a while. And now 10.50 an hour, I mean, it's not even really minimum wage, is it?
It technically it would
I mean,
satisfy,
legally, yeah,
but
but realistically,
forget about it.
you're not going to hire anybody at that
Right.
price.
I mean, you could make more than that working a part-time retail job,
Right.
and you don't have to pick up 50-pound boxes in a
Sweat and
Right.
yeah,
wearing steel-toed shoes.
right.
Mhm.
Right.
And so then again, that's when we come in as consultants, because if you were to bring to me that situation, and that's a little extreme, but I'd say within the last year, I've had people, I've had clients or potential clients that said, "Well, we pay 14, and that's what we've always done, and we're not going to be able to get." Or what happens a lot too is where they started their company is in a very small rural area, or maybe you can still do that, but you come into Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Nashville, Mount Juliet. Well, that's not our reality.
But then they scratch their head why they don't have
Yes.
employees, and then especially good employees.
Yes. And those two things are, they are not mutually exclusive. Those two things have to go together. And so then we become consultants again, because at this point you're not ready to hear that yet. Like when I tell you it's going to cost, it's $15 to get somebody to even talk to you, and that is the bare. That's where we start.
Mhm.
That's putting a box together. So here's some advice. Here's what I'm going to give you, and you're going to come back to me, and we're going to talk about this again, because and if you absolutely cannot budge, then we need to come up with some ideas. So maybe what we start marketing is: are you looking for a second job opportunity? Are you looking to add some income? Then can we shorten your hours? Can we shorten your shifts? Are you willing to be flexible with an altered start time? So if your start time is 6:30 in the morning, well, childcare is not open that early.
Right.
So what if we?
And if it is, you pay extra for it.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you feel about part-time associates instead of full-time associates? And then we just start giving it back. But what you're not going to have is the you that you were 15 years ago when you started this job at 10, because they think, well, when I started this job, I made $10 an hour, and that was good money. Well, when I was born, I weighed 8 pounds. Things changed since then. Here we are a few years later, and that doesn't look the same anymore.
Right.
And so, and I think that for the employer or the hiring manager that has worked since COVID is just going to be the defining moment of all of our lives. The pre-COVID work experience and hiring experience is not the same as the post-COVID. The world changed very quickly for us then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talk about that in all kinds of settings. I mean, how many employers pre-COVID were like, "Oh yeah, we can let you telecommute," right? You heard that one,
Sure.
or work from home, however they wanted to put it. We just got to figure out how to make that happen. Blah 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 blah. And then COVID hits, and it's like, "Oh no, we're doing it right now."
Right.
like right now.
Right now, right this second.
Yeah.
And which is so funny to me because, I think in my own company included, we went from this, it would never work. We need to be in the office. This job is not able to be done remotely. We were like, oh, nope, we're all going to do this remotely.
Right now.
And did it very well,
Mm-hmm.
and real benefits and real learnings happened out of that. And now what it makes me chuckle to myself when I see it is now employers are like, oh, wait a minute, let's draw this back. We're going to bring it back.
Well, so, and you mentioned that before when we were prepping a little bit, and I've heard all. I mean, I have one employee. We have a couple of employees at the brewery, part time. You know what I mean. So I don't employ a lot of people, right? But I have lots of friends that own businesses, and obviously lots of people that work in various places.
Mhm.
I've heard every span of the gamut as to whether or not people were more productive or less productive or even the same productive when they worked from home. I've heard, the employees were nowhere near as productive. They were all distracted by laundry or the dishwasher or the dog or the kid or the lawnmower or the fill in the blank, right? Or no, people were super productive because they enjoyed being at home and they knew that if they were productive, they might get to stay at home, right? So from your perspective, Leslie Allen's opinion.
Oh gosh, I'm ready.
Yep, not this. The views expressed by Leslie Allen do not reflect.
As always, as always.
So, what is it? Were people more, less, the same? And obviously, each individual person is different, right? But if we averaged it all out, productivity went up, went down, stayed the same. Which is it?
The answer to that question is yes.
Dadgummit. No, I
Yes.
want one of the three.
Well, it's so funny because, again, the answer is yes. So here's what we learned, right? We learned that there is a person that is highly productive. And we have people who are not highly productive. And what makes me chuckle
At
is
home.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
We're in the remote area. We also have people who were more productive in a remote setting than they
A third of your people would be better off at home. A third of your people could go between, and a third of your people absolutely need to be in the office.
That's right. But instead of putting some time and attention into figuring that out, we're either going to call them all back or we're going to say, nope, this works for us and we're going to continue forward.
So that's very interesting, and I think you're probably spot on with that. I think some of that also has to do. There's a little real estate involved in that, right? If I've got a lease on a 10,000 square foot office building and I've got 4 people working in it, that's very difficult for me to stomach. Do you know what I mean? Even though those 4 people need to be working in that office, what do I do with all that empty space, right? So there's probably some of that. There's probably some of like projecting what I do, right? I'm better off if I work in the office. Therefore,
Right. I'm hot, so it's hot in here. It must be hot in here for everyone. I mean, Jess. But and it's so funny that we look at that as other when, of course, that's true in every other environment. Of course, it's true.
right? That's interesting. So one of the things that we talked about, I'm going to come to this in a second. Let's real quick. What are some trends that you see in employment, just in general, not in staffing necessarily, but
Okay.
just employment? Do people still leave jobs over 50 cents an hour?
Yes.
Okay. And what about benefits like health insurance?
It's interesting.
All right. This was your suggestion. Not true. Dispel some falsehoods about your industry, about labor in general, about the economy, the working economy, that kind of thing.
So,
You have one that's a pet peeve, so go ahead.
okay, here I go. My pet peeve when I hear this all the time. I hear it from my clients. You hear it on TV and on the news and just in social media. Is that nobody wants to work anymore.
People don't want to work.
People don't want to work anymore.
People are just lazy.
Gosh,
don't
you
wanna
can't
work.
get anybody to show up. It's not like it was when I was a kid. Well, when you were a kid, you know what? You didn't work either.
I always try to get out of mowing the grass.
Every time.
Yeah.
If you do it badly, my dad won't make you do it anymore.
Oh, yeah, not me. My dad would just make me go out in the dark with a flashlight and fix it.
But the reality is that the unemployment rate in Rutherford County is 2.7.
That's
it.
crazy.
It is crazy. And
That
it
is as close to full
Oh.
employment because ultimately 2.7% of people that want work might just be in between jobs right now.
or they are stay-at-home moms, or they have been hurt somehow and they are just physically unable to go into a job, or they just they're a full-time student, or they're incarcerated. There's a million reasons, and it's 1% lower than the national average.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear that, I'm like, that math isn't mathin'. The reality is everybody's working. And the reality is that there's more jobs than there are people to work them.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're doing, and when you see these help wanted signs, and we use that as proof of people's laziness that nobody wants to work.
Yeah, everybody's hiring
That's
right now.
What do you mean you can't find a job? It's not that the person can't find a job. It's that they can't find a job that supports their needs or their family. So, for example, if I am, married and I have kids, and my husband works third shift somewhere, and we share a car, then I have to have a job that supports him being able to, and us use this car together. And then what time does our kid get to school, and what time do they get out of school, and what is our daycare plan? Because that's another thing that happened in COVID, is that daycare was no longer a thing.
Yeah.
And so people worked their lives out around, well, I'll work this shift and you work this shift, and we can cut out the daycare.
Well, not only you get more time with the kiddos, but holy cow, what an expense to save.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's a whole house.
Yeah.
And so what I get a big chunk of when I get phone calls and people that walk into my office is not that they're looking for a job, they're looking for a second one. Because yes, there's lots of production work, there's lots of retail work, but you're going to have a couple of those, especially with the cost of living going up to what it is, the cost of real estate being what it is, in order to survive. And so what they're looking for isn't just the one job, it's two. So, they'll come into my office
But
and
then
say,
those two jobs have to
yes,
coexist.
they have to coexist.
Yeah.
So if my main job gets off at 3:30, then I need a job that starts at 4. So do you have something where I can leave this job, get to this one by 4, and work until midnight?
Mm-hmm.
And so going back to that consultation that we talked about, if I have an employer that their shift starts at 4, or maybe their shift starts at 3:30, let's say, that happens a lot. We have a lot of 3:30 starts. I can call them and
Odd.
say,
Why 3:30?
it gives the first shift time to leave.
Oh,
So if
okay.
your first shift leaves at 3, you got that 30-minute window. And then hey, I have somebody that can be there at 4. Can you take him at 4? Well, our shift starts at 3:30. We really need you here at 3:30.
And if it's a production environment, I get that.
I do too.
Because that team member is important to this little team to get that line running.
I do too.
So, but it just requires you to be a little more creative with how you run that line.
Right. What's our flexibility here? And again, is it that are you paying for head count, or are you paying for production hours? Because I can get you the production hour. What I need for you is, or if it's not 3:30, can it be 4? What time do they go on their first break? Can I bring them back in at this? Can I start them if the first break is at? I'm talking about that 15. If the first break is at 5, can I get them in here at 5:15? They start their shift when everyone else is coming back. Everyone starts at the same time.
Right.
And so if the employer could just give a little bit on that, then we could probably provide all of their needs.
But industrial engineers don't think outside of the box.
They
They
really don't.
literally build the boxes to think in.
They love that box. It works so good.
That's funny. You mentioned a couple of other things. So, and we talked about wages and living wage, and we talked about having multiple jobs. One of the things that you said that, man, it really resonated with me is that so often small business owners, business managers, shift managers, whatever, when they're looking for employees, they are looking for themselves.
Mhm.
And you, I guess, run into that and run up against that on a regular basis. How do you handle that? So I'm a shift manager. I've got 100 people under me, right, or 100 positions at least, and I've come to you and I'm like, look, I need 10 people, and they've got to, and I like describe myself to you,
Yes.
right? What do you do with that? Because you're not going to find me. That's why I am where I am.
That's right. And sometimes, well, one, I'm just charming, so I just try to be charming. But what I might tell the person is, you understand that I'm not finding you, right? That you are the diamond in the rough, and you're already working.
Yeah.
And here's what reality is going to look like at this rate. So, and I don't mean to say that all of the employers out there are cheapskates. We've got some great living wages.
For sure.
In Rutherford County, we are very lucky and proof
Well,
of
we
that.
we wouldn't be booming with a 2.7%. Yeah.
That's right. And so people are moving here for that exact reason.
For sure.
And which makes it all the more challenging to talk to someone who's lived inside this world that they've created for the last 15 years and they haven't looked outside the window, and they have been so fortunate to keep the staff that they've had because they all love each other and they've created this family there. But now, so-and-so is retired and this
That's
one
right.
moved, and I need more people in here. And so this window into what reality looks like now is so different than the window that they used to look out of when they were looking for work. And so I really have to to paint the picture of what this is going to look like at first. So what I tell them is, I'm going to find that person. I'm going to find them for you. When do you need them? And they say, well, I needed them, because by the time somebody calls me, they needed them 2 weeks ago. Well, I need them today. Okay. Well, we're not going to get them today. What I'm going to get today is somebody, I'm going to start, it's going to take me, I'm going to bring you 10 people in here, and you're going to not like them.
One's going to be okay.
One's going to be okay. We're going to get there. And that's what reality is going to look like for you.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I had a moment. You said what you were saying there, and it's exactly what I do with housing. Right? I can get you a great deal. I can get you a house really fast. Right? I can get you exactly what you're looking for. Those are 3 different things, and I can usually land 2 of those.
I know. Pick 2.
That's right. So I can get you exactly what you're looking for and get you a great deal on it, but it's going to take a while. Right?
But if you don't set that up for your client, that's looking for their home, then they think that you just couldn't do it.
Right. Set expectations and then manage them.
Right. And it's so funny because I actually compare it to real estate a lot.
Yeah.
So unless you're willing to move your budget. So we can get all 3 corners of that triangle for this.
But now you're not getting me a great deal.
Right. All right. So now the house has to be the deal, right? Suddenly you have to make this value look like it's a great deal.
Right.
And so it's very similar. And so especially when we're talking about multiple quantities.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have, I need 20 is a big number, but typically we're into 3s to 5s to start off. For me to fill those 5 positions with the exact person that you used to be when you started in this role, I'm probably going to have to fill the 1 position 5 times. So I'm going to run 20 people through here for you to find the 5. And I need you to be ready.
Because it's going to suck for a little
It
while.
really hurts for a minute, but it's the
Yeah.
process. And if I can prepare them for the process, then usually we're going to do okay. It's when you get overexcited and you say, yeah, I can do it. You don't prepare them for the process, then suddenly this hurts.
Yeah.
So my job is to make it not hurt.
I love it. All right, we are out of time, and this has been fun. Can you believe we've gone over 30 minutes? Can you believe that?
Really?
Yeah. Does it feel like it?
I could talk all day.
Me too. So good stuff. If you are an employer and you or you're a manager or whatever of people, and you guys have some needs, Randstad can absolutely help with that, and they can help in all kinds of different arenas, different industries, different settings, whether it's offices or logistics or manufacturing or whatever, any kind of professional staffing, all of that. They've got the power to help with that. So really important industry within all of our other industries is getting people
Oh, absolutely.
put in the right places to do the work that needs to get done.
Absolutely.
And you guys are doing it. So doing a great job. Leslie Allen, managing director. So I never can. Titles are weird to me. Like I don't even know what they mean. I'm going to make up some of my own just to have people ask, well, what is that? I'm like, oh, wouldn't you like to know? Anyway, that's it. Thank you,
All right.
Leslie. Appreciate you. If you have a mortgage need, call my friend Brian Nail. If you have a real estate need, call me. Maybe after you call Brian Nail. If you have an idea for a podcast or you want to support podcasting and support Spread the Positive in doing what we do here, call my friend Trent.
Yes.
That was
Yes,
awesome.
please do. Sorry. Very underwhelming. That was a great show, though. Super
was.
informative.
Good stuff. And I guess that's it. Go and be nice to each other. Or wait, what was it? Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other.
There you go.
Yeah, perfect.
Good one.
Have a good week.
All right.